Welcome. I got a good video for you today with Mike Rowe talking about the amount of men in our country not working today. And it's a scary number, and it's scary to see how things are going to be in the future. I mean, really, what are we asking from the men of our country to do? To do for a living and to know how to do so they can take care of families, so they can take care of the jobs that need to be filled in this country. And if you go back and look at the video I did 3 days ago about equality, with Jordan Peterson, you'll see I'm saying in that video too, look at all the opportunity that actually exists for equality. Women just have to go be lumberjacks. Women just have to go be electricians. Women just have to go be plumbers. But men need to do the same thing. We need to start filling jobs that are needed. So let's roll into it.
Every single week, we shine a light on an industry that's essential to our country, staying on the rails, and without exception, every single one of them are hiring. I just talked on the negative side to an economist I know named Nick Eberstadt on my podcast, and he paints a very different picture in terms of not unemployment, but labor participation rates. It's probably the most least reported economic metric with the biggest impact.
It shows a real number on the amount of people in our country not working, and for whatever reason that is.
You got 7 million men right now, prime age, 25 to 54, not only not working, but affirmatively not looking for work. That is having an impact, I think, on the economy, and according to Nick, an impact unlike anything we've ever seen before.
I mean, really, all you need to do is put a little bit of logical thought behind it, and you can start to ask some real simple questions. What are these men going to do when they get to retirement age? What are they going to do before that? Or what are they doing now to have money? How are they living now? Are they living off their parents? Are they living in their parents' basement? This is a lot of the rumor of the Gen Zs, I guess, the younger generation now, is that they're living at home with their parents. Well, if that's a lot of those men, what's going to eventually happen long term? There's no investment into careers. I'm asking the same thing about girls, not just men in this case. I get what Mike Rowe's talking about, but this is where I come in with the equality thing is if you want real equality, here's all kinds of opportunity for women to go make that money straight out of high school, because many other men aren't doing it. 7 million men are not doing it, not choosing to go work. Women can go get those jobs. You heard what he said earlier. There's so many jobs available. They're constantly asking him for help to position people to work for them, in all these industries, welding, plumbing, electrical, all the different trades that you can imagine. He's seeing these people asking for help, and we're not seeing men or women going into these jobs. Well, like I said, put some logical thought into what's that going to do long term? Who's going to pay their bills when their parents aren't around anymore? We're not giving any real long-term thought as human beings to what we're going to do even tomorrow, let alone 5 years down the line, 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line. And yet we're over here talking about climate change.
Welders, steam fitters, pipe fitters, mechanics. There has just simply never been a need for skilled work like there is right now. So again, if you're inclined to think that way, to work that way, the world's your oyster. If you're not, sadly, and you're a man, statistically, you're probably sitting home spending 2,000 hours a year looking at your screen.
This is part of the lie that was told to us about our parents and our grandparents and everybody. But you have to go to college. You have to go to college. It's all about school and better jobs and being management and tech degrees and all these different things. And we left the technical schools behind. We left the vocations behind. We left electrical, welding, steam fitting, all the things he said. We left all that behind in trying to advance our children. We wanted better for people. Well, in that long term of wanting better, we have villainized so many of these other jobs and made it look like if you're doing mechanic, if you're doing a welder, if you are an electrician, that you're somehow a loser. Genuinely, who is going to long term do those jobs if we don't backfill with people to physically be there to do it? And where are we going to be in 100 years from now if we're not teaching our young people how to work hard?
We've got to do something about it, not in a scoldy, lectury way, but we got to acknowledge it because it's enormous.
This is where we as parents come in, where we should start pushing our children into these lines of work. And I know it seems horrible, but that's part of the problem. Why are we thinking about these jobs in a way that we shouldn't be sending our kids to be welders or steam fitters or pipe fitters or any of these? Some of these jobs pay way better than any of the jobs that a lot of people are going to end up falling into if they don't get directed down the proper path.
What's the message you would like to send the government? That's what we asked. We found a majority, 52%, a clear majority said, lend me a hand.
It means that two things can be true at the same time. It means that cookie cutter advice, bromides, platitudes, politicians who paint with a big giant brush are painting over a lot of truth. The reality is there are a lot of people who need a hand, who are well-intended and willing to work. The other reality is there are millions of people who have been given a hand and as a result have done absolutely nothing with the help they've been afforded. These two things happen at the same time. And why they divide us right down the middle, I don't know.
I think that we've raised too many boys in our country without father figures in their lives, and too many fathers have been pushed out, have decided to leave. There's millions of reasons why, but the truth is men are not involved in their children's lives, and especially their boys' lives, and this is part of the consequence. Is I believe we have a lot of boys being coddled by their moms and not being forced to work, and not having been forced to work all this time before now. Our problem started with single parents. And I believe a guilt that comes with being a single parent, taking it easy on your children, not expecting them to do things. Shouldn't we be forcing our kids to do stuff? I know that it's hard to shift from one phase to the next. I'm raising a son myself, and I know it's very difficult to shift from one phase to the next of knowing when they're no longer a child anymore, and it's time for them to start doing chores. It's time for them to start putting up or shutting up. It's time for them to start doing what's expected of them. It's difficult as a parent, but that's what needs to happen. The effects that we're seeing in our world today are because our children aren't being taught the proper principles and ideas that they need. We are sitting back too much expecting somebody else to do the things that it's our responsibility to do, because we're not really asking the question of what are these kids going to end up as if they don't put any directed thought into it now. Thanks for hitting that like and subscribe button. Thanks to my subscribers. Thanks for watching. Later.